I didn't know what to eat, and had a lot of pain, a lot of cramping, a lot of diarrhea, and just kind of constant, where I didn't know what today or the next day would hold for me.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Ruscio, and I'm really excited to share with you a case of someone with chronic, lifelong gastrointestinal issues that were manifesting as pain, diarrhea, but then over time evolved to what was likely a histamine-mediated allergic reaction, leading to these swollen lips that actually required acute medical intervention, and how we, namely Dr. Hannah Hamlin from our office, were able to help with no testing, no crazy rigmarole, just some evidence-guided therapies that we know can be quite helpful for improving gut health. So I'll go back and forth between their conversation, which is a great one, and I'll weave in some of my thoughts. So here we go.
Hi, Sally. Thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited to share your story with people so that they can learn what it's like to work with the Ruscio Institute, and also what it was like to feel in your shoes, with the symptoms you were going through. But not only are we excited to share your story, we're excited that you're feeling better. I think that when we first met, you certainly weren't feeling good, and it's really nice to see you feeling happy and healthy today. So
thank you. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Good. Well, tell our audience about the symptoms that you were having, kind of how you were feeling when we first started working together.
Well, I've had trouble with my gut probably since I was 18 years old. So I'm used to that. But around Christmas, I had some reaction on my lips where they inflamed and actually, I guess, infected. And it sent me to the emergency room twice, and the doctors couldn't figure it out. It was such a long process. It wasn't until, I think, the end of January that I was starting to get a hold of what it was. In the meantime, I was on steroids, but as I came off them, began having lots of problems with my gut. And I experimented with, I thought it was a histamine reaction in my lips. So I experimented with a histamine diet, which seemed to make my gut issues much worse. And I began just out of desperation trying this or that or reading, and finally realized I needed some help. And that's when I called you.
And so this is not an uncommon scenario for someone to be in. And one thing I just want to tie in here is sometimes what was likely probably an end result histamine reaction in the lips will not respond to a low histamine diet. So it's important to understand that for any given issue, let's say an autoimmune condition, the autoimmune paleo diet may not be the best for all autoimmune conditions, and a low histamine diet may not be the best thing for all, seemingly anyway, histamine-mediated conditions. This is one of the things that we really try to share with you at the office and with our literature and everything else, is that we want to make a list of the therapeutics that are going to be effective for whatever ails an individual, and then work through them. And you'll see here, or as you've already seen, the low histamine diet didn't work, worth trying. Then we need to move on. And this is why she reached out. And I think it was the right play to get some guidance. And let's see where things went from here.
Well, and I remember us talking about the low histamine diet you had tried, and that really is a challenging type of way to choose foods and have restriction to do for a long time. And so I realized that it's really challenging when we're trying one way of eating to help one thing, and it makes another set of symptoms worse. And that can really feel defeating at times. How are you feeling when you came in?
I really felt like there was no ground beneath my feet. I didn't know in which direction to go. And as you know, first of all, getting an appointment with the doctor can be difficult, but finding someone who would understand, and understand these particular gut issues, I really didn't feel like, if it were possible, that it would take such a long time. And I didn't have time at that point. I didn't know what to eat. And I had a lot of pain, a lot of cramping, a lot of diarrhea, and just kind of constant, where I didn't know what today or the next day would hold for me.
And this is a really insightful question that Dr. Hannah asks, which probes into the emotional component behind this. And it's something that I wish more individuals understood, which is while, and I include myself in this, while you're in the throes of not feeling well, it can feel very despairing. Oh my goodness, this is going to be hard. It will take a long time. I'm not sure if anyone can help me. And I've shared I had some of these same experiences when I had a simple hip muscular imbalance, and I was convinced it was some major issue. And actually just seeing a pelvic floor therapist, we figured out you're sitting more than you think. You're sitting too low in your chair, and a couple exercises and stretches, and I was back to normal in no time. So it's not an unusual thing to feel as though it will be hard, it will be difficult. And unfortunately, at least in my experience, and this is something that I think we need to call out sort of in the field, while we're trying to help people, we oftentimes will jump to a lot of testing. And as you'll see in this case, someone who felt this would be hard, this would be difficult, and it wouldn't perhaps be possible to find a doctor who understood how to fix this, we were able to help her fairly quickly. Again, details to follow here, but the point I want to make is we know there are therapeutics that can help with this. And this model that we use in the clinic called evidence-guided empiricism, meaning what does the evidence base tell us can help you therapeutically? And then empiricism, let's run a couple or a series of short experiments to see if those therapeutics improve your symptoms. And if we're doing the right thing, we should be able to see improvements and move through healing fairly quickly. But let's continue to see where Sally ended up.
Well, let's talk about, so the first couple of interventions that we did together, I know that we walked you through kind of the first set of treatment plan during our first appointment or our first lot of appointments. And we recommended for you the elemental reset. So using that elemental heal powder for 3 to 4 days, and then some low dose probiotics because you had challenge tolerating probiotics before. So tell me a little bit how that first step of the intervention went for you.
I will. I just want to go back a tiny bit.
Okay,
because I'm older. I'm on Medicare. I realized that having really problematic gut at my age was not good for my future. That when your immune system is compromised and you're already old, I really worried that I was going to get into some kind of autoimmune issue that was not going to be easy to resolve. So I really knew I had to be proactive about getting this resolved. But I'll go back to your question about the elemental heal. So 3 days, you said, on the elemental heal, and I can't say I looked forward to that, and found it difficult, complained my way through those 3 days. Although now I turn to it and consider it just such a relief that I have that tool, as you say, a tool in my toolbox. First of all, now when I can't think of what to eat and I'm too busy to try to deal with that, I can turn to that and I know that I'll be nourished and not be hungry. So it's a great tool in my toolbox. And when I have any kind of problems, I know, well, I'll just do a meal with this, and that will that gives my gut a chance to kind of rest. So I'm thrilled with having that resource. Yeah.
And just want to underscore that I think part of where Sally's trepidation may have came from is you read about this 2 weeks exclusive that's often espoused on the internet. And that comes from a good place, right? There was one trial with IBS and SIBO using an elemental diet for 2 weeks exclusively. But what we found and what we're hoping to publish on later this year, and there's currently some wheels in motion on this for data gathering and publication, is that if we look at how the elemental diet is used for inflammatory bowel disease, they will often use it in a more relaxed, what's known as hybrid application, meaning you get half your calories from food, half your calories from elemental dieting. And so we've run with that concept and we front load with the mini reset, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, attempting for exclusive, and then people can use it in kind of a half and half application. And as Sally found, a little bit of a headwind, a little bit challenging at first, but as she got through that, wasn't that hard. And now she actually enjoys, as she said, having this resource, and it's something that can really help with healing and sort of giving her digestive system a chance to rest. So I do want to, again, underpin that if you've read or heard the elemental diet must be used for 2 weeks exclusively, doesn't have to be that hard. It's actually much of an easier onboarding process for the most cases out there.
Well, and I know with those probiotics, that was something too, because you hadn't done well with probiotics in the past. It was a little scary to start them, understandably. So tell us about your journey with that. I think it's a great story to share for people who have had poor experiences with probiotics before.
Yeah. Well, your recommendation said start at 1/16 of a teaspoon of the 3 probiotics. So I, emptied them into a little dish and measured 1/16 and could not handle that. Had diarrhea, cramping, and knew it was a result of those pills. On your guidelines, there's a link to order the tiny little measuring spoons, which I love. And so there's a 1/32 measuring spoon. And I went back the next day and tried 1/32 of this mixture. And I could tolerate that. So I did. I stayed on that 1/32 for 4 or 5 days until I felt comfortable with it. And then I doubled it to 1/16. And amazingly, I could handle 1/16. And at that point, I really thought, well, this is working. So I stayed on the 1/16 for 3 days, doubled it again to, 1/8, and continued to double it. And right now, as of last night, I'm on that full dosage of, I guess it's 6 pills in the morning and 6 at night, full pills, which is incredible. Yeah. And I can really feel a difference. I feel stronger. I feel more confident about what I can eat, which is amazing. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously a lot here to celebrate. Yay, right? She was able to successfully use probiotics. And I don't know that going that slow was necessary. It's one protocol that we're experimenting with. You've probably heard me say it's important not to jump ship too quickly if there is some reactivity. And oftentimes what will happen is someone won't go through this usually 3 to 5 day adjustment period of gastrointestinal turbulence, or it could be other symptoms also. You could feel tired, flu-like, achy, as the body is adjusting. So certainly a very slow and steady approach is one approach. However, I think all the body really needs there is the low end of the dose range. So in this case, it could have been 1 capsule from each formula. We use 3 different formulas, and go through this adjustment reaction and look for the key sign of that reaction abating about around day 5, 6, or 7. And so it's always okay to go slow and steady, but we want to be careful not to maybe portray that you have to go uber slow. And again, this is something that I think we will always take on a case-by-case basis, but as hopefully you're accustomed to, I'm always thinking about these things from both sides. Is it needed, or can we do it better, faster, or more efficiently? And my general observation has been, give your body a few days, and maybe some diarrhea and some discomfort will abate, usually again by day 3, 4, 5, or 6-ish. And when you're getting to that week mark, that's usually when this inflection occurs. And as she shared, she's now on 6 capsules, full capsules, twice per day. And there's a lot of benefit that has ensued, as you'll hear her describe here in a moment. But the key take home is not to jump ship too quickly, because probiotics are such a well-studied and foundational aspect of improving one's gut health that we want to give it some dedicated time and focus to ensure we get the benefit out of this tool, so as not to jump to antimicrobial, antibiotic, or other therapies while skipping this vitally important foundational step. So great job, Dr. Hannah. Great job, Sally. And this is just an awesome finding.
What diligence, to take it that slow and steady. I think that takes a lot of dedication, but it's such a great example of sometimes when, something doesn't feel right in the beginning, it doesn't mean it's not the right thing. It just means maybe we need to slow things down a little bit and give your body time to learn to tolerate it.
So one other thing I want to weave in here, which is part of what is likely happening, is the development of immune attunement, immune tolerance. We know that even heat-killed probiotics, we've discussed in the past, this wonderful meta-analysis by Zorzella and colleagues that took probiotics, killed them with heat, and then gave them to participants and found an equivalency between intact probiotics and dead probiotics. So then how is it that probiotics can still be helpful? Well, it's likely because even a dead probiotic will stimulate certain toll-like receptors, 1, 2, probably most namely TLR4, toll-like receptor 4. And this has an attuning impact on the immune system, which impacts food tolerance, but also impacts dysbiosis and the microbiota. And that's part of why I think Sally developed the ability to have improved food tolerance, because these receptors in your gut, these toll-like receptors, amongst other receptors, they require stimulation to have a healthy immune function. This same thing, the same hermetic stressor applies to bones. Without stress on bones, they become sarcopenic or osteoporotic. Without stress on muscles, you become osteopenic. Without let's say heat stress or cold stress, we know that you don't have quite the levels of health that you could, right? So the human system, biologically, there's this constant across multiple systems that healthy stressors are required for optimal function. That's part of what we're seeing here with probiotics in Sally's case and for her immune system.
So tell me, let's talk about, where are you now? How are your symptoms right now? How are you feeling overall from a digestion perspective?
My symptoms have improved steadily, and I'm back to eating foods. I had pesto pasta. It was rice pasta last night, but that's a favorite of mine. And I'm so excited, to be eating things that I thought I was not going to be able to eat again. So I'm still cautious, and I try things out one at a time. I've really learned to go slow and kind of learn my lessons from what my gut is teaching me. Just because something isn't working doesn't mean it won't work. What I was doing when I was kind of flailing around and trying this and that, I'd give it a day or two, and then it was like, that's not working, and I'd switch. And I think this has taught me that I have to be persistent and stay with something over a period of time, that changes in the gut bacteria, whatever, are not going to happen right away. So I have to stay with it. And I would not have known that without the guidance.
And this is another crucial point. Sometimes when we start consulting with an individual, they expect that there's some new or novel, exotic thing they've never heard of. And sure, in some cases, people need to be redirected. However, in more cases than not, it's an understanding of how to apply tools effectively. This is an analogy I used even when I was writing Healthy Gut, Healthy You, which published back in February of 2018. And these concepts still apply today. In fact, they probably apply even more so today, because with time, there's more and more new therapeutic options out there that can distract people and lead them to be right where Sally was, which was try something, didn't work, on the next thing within a day or two. A good clinician has mastered how to use the fundamental tools effectively. And this is why I want to keep bringing these examples to you, so that you understand that while the blogosphere and internet and the associated algorithms reward novelty bias, new, exciting, different, it's not actually what's oftentimes the best for the individual. Knowing how to use these tools effectively is how we're able to help someone with lifelong gastrointestinal symptoms that then blossomed into what was probably a histamine-mediated atopic reaction, simply by knowing you can work through this and see symptomatic benefit on the other side. Now, the other side of this coin is we don't flounder. We're expecting a trend of improvement, which is crucial, because another error in the field is observing no benefit and saying, well, just give it longer. I think that's wrong. I think that's very wrong. If we're doing the right thing, save maybe a little bit of turbulence, we should be seeing this up and to the right trend of improvement over time. And so just bear this in mind, that it's knowing how to use the tools correctly that's more important than having a magical tool. The analogy I used in Healthy Gut, Healthy You was, if you were not a mechanic, your car broke, and we let you into a mechanic's machine shop, would you be able to use those tools effectively? No, right? So just because you have access to, let's say, herbs, vitamins, probiotics, doesn't necessarily mean that one understands how to apply them to a person effectively. And it's a key point, because oftentimes the tools that are needed are the ones right in front of us. We just need that guidance with how to use them effectively.
Well, how is your diarrhea, your indigestion, and your abdominal cramping now? Is that something that you're still experiencing daily?
No, it's gone. But it is the symptom that I listen to. If I feel a little bit of that, then I know, okay, that was not right. Like I think I had a kombucha on Sunday and immediately began feeling a little bit of symptoms and thought, okay, I won't do that. So it's still it's a guide also. But amazingly, the cramping and the diarrhea are almost all gone, but they still function as a guide as to how to keep staying on the right track.
And just really quick on this is such a great empowering thing for Sally to say, meaning I don't need an inaccurate list of food allergy test results to tell me what to do. I can listen to my own body. And this is really an area, functional GI care, where listening to one's body is usually the best way to go. Now, sure, there are times and exceptions, like I always say, right? If your gastroenterologist tells you you need to have a follow-up for your colorectal cancer screening, you have to do that, right? But this is different. We're talking about how do we functionally coach someone through using these tools dietarily, supplementally, to improve their health. And oftentimes, again, coming back to this concept of simplicity, it's just listening to your body. And I hope what you're pulling out of this is that Sally's noticing she's becoming less reactive over time. And she's just listening to her body to guide her while she escalates this staircase to having fewer and fewer dietary restrictions, which is super empowering, and not using sort of, again, the lab testing for food allergies, which we know is inaccurate and will lead people not to listen to their body and sort of vacuously follow a list. And sometimes years later, people will be avoiding things like blueberries and rice because of this result from years ago. And when we ask them about it, have you noticed a problem with blueberries and rice? Oh, no, I haven't, but I know I'm allergic because of the test results. All right. So, be careful to not fall into that quagmire also.
Sally, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time today to share your story with people, so that other people out there that might have similar issues to you can understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I'm happy to, really, seriously, if I can help anybody, because that was a long journey to try to get to this, and kind of a leap of faith to do it. Yeah. And the fact that it's worked out is quite amazing. Yeah.
Sally, thank you for your trust in us. Dr. Hannah, thank you for being such an attentive, empathetic, and effective clinician. And to all you watching this, here's hope, right? I share this because, as you know, or hopefully you know, I have been in a similar place where I reacted to almost everything that I ate, felt terribly, and it wasn't the easiest path for me to get better. And so if you are struggling, a few things to close with. These issues in the GI are often not that challenging. You just need the right guidance to work through the therapies that we know are effective. Nothing magical here, no magic bullet, no secret sauce, other than perhaps just being an attentive clinician who listens to you and personalizes the recommendations to your system to help you get well as quickly as possible, with the goal of empowerment and a broad diet and a happy life.